Hola, everybody, and welcome back to this new episode of Giant Nerd Learning. This episode is gonna be very special because we are going to do something very interesting and very cool, but at the same time, very useful. So, basically, today we are going to try to transform the regular ChatGPT that you're used to interact with every day to a customized sales assistant that is able to answer all your client questions, all that without doing any single line of code. This tutorial is very good and very useful to startup founders, anybody who wants to automate this process of answering clients. It is also very interesting to any sales associate who gets the same questions over and over again and wants to automate that part. It is also very good for anybody who is starting with AI and really wants to elevate their AI game, and to anybody who wants to make money out of AI. For this tutorial, you're gonna be needing just an OpenAI account and some bucks into that account, let's say like $5, even though $5 is a bit too much for testing. So if you're interested, shall we do it? So, what exactly is fine tuning? Think of it like this. Imagine you hire a new employee who's really smart but knows nothing about your business. You'd need to train them, right? Fine tuning is like hiring a really smart new employee who's read every book out there, super capable, but they don't know your business yet. So, what you'll do here is that you'll show them how your company works, how to talk to customers, what matters the most to you, etc. Fine-tuning an AI model works the same way. You start with a powerful general module like GPT-4 or GPT-4o Mini, and then you basically build on top of it and you train it on specific data so it learns your tone, your tasks, etc. That way, it doesn't just give you smart answers, it gives your kind of smart answers. Here's what happens when I ask regular ChatGPT about like my business, let's say here for example Salesforce. It gives me a generic answer because it doesn't know my specific products, prices, policies, etc. But here, the same questions asked to my fine-tuned model, look at that. It even knows the company's tone of voice. That's fine-tuning. We're teaching OpenAI model to become an expert in your specific module and business. It's like having a sales representative who never sleeps, never gets tired, and knows every single detail about what you sell. Alright, now that we've covered what fine tuning is, let's talk about the most important part, the dataset. This is actually what separates a good fine tuned model from a terrible one. For this project, I'm using a sales database generated by Claude based on Salesforce Business. I collected the most common questions asked, like what is Salesforce? How do I create a new lead? What's the difference between a lead and an opportunity? Etc. Here's the key here. OpenAI needs this data in a very specific format, and it's called, as you can see here, JSON-L format, and it looks actually like this. I'll share this dataset with you to test it on, and if you're not familiar with JSON-L, you do not need to worry about it. Actually, you can have your AI turn your JSON file to a JSON-L if it's not a big file. Else, you can convert it through Python, using just a code like this. But like, see how it works? Here, the user, as you can see, is my, oops, sorry about that. So the user here is my customer, and this is the content is their question, and the assistant is how exactly I want my AI to respond. I made sure to include my company's friendly tone and general information about how Salesforce work. Here's a pro tip. Make sure your answer sounds like you, not like a robot. So if your answers are casual and friendly, Make sure that your responses are casual and friendly, like I did here. Else, if your responses are more professional, keep that tone consistent. Also, as you can notice, I created about 50 question answers pair covering everything from product to return policies. And actually, the more examples you give it, the smarter it becomes. So now let's jump in and fine tune the data set that we have. For that, you need to go to OpenAI platform, sign in if you're already signed up or do your sign up. Once done, it will display this dashboard right here. Um, if we go to the dashboard here, you'll get this view. And what we should do is that we should go to fine tuning here. This is where we're gonna fine tune our model. So here we're gonna go and create a new fine tuning job. For this data set, it's called supervised learning. And for the base module, you can choose whatever module you want. For this test, I'm going to be using GPT-4o Mini, but feel free to go and read about all GPT models in order to understand the cost of each one and which one fits the most for your dataset. Then here we're going to go and upload our dataset that we already showed. And finally, we can go to the configurations and optimize it the way we want. And as you can see here, the status is validating files and it created the job. The validation is going on. Actually, for the dataset that we have, it might take a few minutes to 5 minutes to be done. But like the larger the data set, the more time it will take in order to fine tune. So let's hope for it to finish this work and I'll get back to you. So, since we're waiting for our model to be fine tuned, I wanted to take a moment to talk about these configuration parameters and what each one means. So, let's start with the batch size. The batch size here is the number of examples in each batch. So, let's think of it of like having a training. Let's think of the training set as a whole pizza, for example, and the pizza is divided into 16 slices. So the batch size here is how many slices you eat before taking a break to digest that pizza. So, for example, if we take a batch of one size, that means eating one slice, digesting, eating another slice, digesting, etc. Actually, here the learning is gonna be very slow. Let's take an example of eating four slices and then digesting. This is actually much better, faster, etc. But like, let's think of it of taking batches of 16 slices or taking trying to eat the whole pizza at once. This is gonna be very fast, and you will probably choke. What does this mean in AI? Actually, in the small batch, like 2 to 4 pizza slices, AI here learns quickly, but gets less information each time. In a batch that is medium, this is actually the perfect balance. AI learns really well and without choking. But here, if we put a really a large batch size, AI gets lots of information, but here it might run out of computer memory. Actually, the best way to deal with the batch size is to leave it in auto, like setting picks the perfect meal size for your AI. Actually, here you don't need to guess, just let the computer figure out whether it wants small snacks, big meals, medium sized, etc. Let's move on to the learning rate multiplier. This is a scaling factor for the learning rate. So here, let's think about it as I don't know, for example, riding a bike with training wheels. Small learning rate, for example, you're not going too fast while riding a bike. This is like pedaling really slowly, very safe, but it's gonna take really forever to learn. For a normal medium multiplier, which is actually between 0,001 or 10, um, it's normal, the normal way of learning, and it is steady learning. But if we put a really big learning multiplier, it's like pedaling super fast, and you definitely might crash and fall. The risk for to that is really higher now. So here, as you can see, it's called a multiplier because it multiplies the base of learning. Most AI work best with a multiplier between, let's say, 0, 1, and 2. It depends on the data you have. But again, leave it in auto, the best way to do that, because the AI can pick the right learning speed. And finally, let's talk about the number of epochs here. So the number of epochs is the number to train the model for. Let's take an analogy here of, for example, a child who will be reading a book for a very first time. So the goal here is to recognize animals in a picture book, for example. So one epoch here is that means going through the entire picture book once, page by page. The child here sees every animal picture exactly one time in that epoch. So why multiplying the epochs, and why trying to have a large-ish number of epochs? It's because if the child goes through that book once, it will recognize some animals, but it won't recognize all animals. Each time the child will go through the book, that means each epoch, the child gets better at recognizing animals. And let's say after 5 to 10 times through the same book, they master it. So in AI, for example, if we give it a database to recognize 100 cats, in the first epoch, it will see the 100 cat photos, but it will do a lot of mistakes. In epoch 2, it will see the same photos again in the training set, but it will make fewer mistakes. Let's say in epoch 5, it will see them all again, but it will be recognizing them even better. And let's say in epoch 10, or like 5 or 6 or whatever, depending on your data set, it will master cat recognition. So here, actually, too few epochs, meaning that the AI didn't study enough, but going through the training set more and more times, it will study enough. But be careful, too many epochs, the AI will actually fall in the trap of memorizing instead of truly learning. Therefore, it won't give better results in the future. So, again, bottom line, let it here be auto. Let the AI choose how many epochs it will go through. Epochs really ensure that your AI gets enough practice to become generally smarter, but like it will try to avoid teaching the AI to memorize, but it will teach them to understand what we are looking for, and to basically try to recognize it in the future. And it's actually a repetition with a purpose, which is making the AI better at what we are trying to teach it. So here, as you can see, our model is finally tuned and it's was successfully completed. Here in the hyperparameters, as you can see, the number of epochs was 3, so it went through our training example 3 times. The batch size was 1 and the learning rate is 1.8. Also interesting graph here to see is that the loss kept decreasing and at the same time the accuracy kept increasing. Actually, the training loss is the prediction of how well a machine learning model is performing on the training data. So the more it learns, the less the training loss, and the better the accuracy. So here, at some point, it even got 1 in train accuracy, which is basically a very good response from the prompt, comparing it to my data set. And to test this out, let's go to the playground here and let's try to ask the model something, and here we will get the response using GPT-4o mini, and here we will get the response using the fine-tuned model that we created recently. Here you can add whatever system message you want. For example, let's say reply with a friendly tone. And let's ask, how can I add a customer to Salesforce? So this is again the response from GPT-4o mini. And this is a response that I want, using the model that I already fine-tuned. So clearly now you see the difference. This is how I want to respond to my customers. This is the tone that I already set in my data set. And this is the structure that I wanted to have. So as of right now, these are very interesting findings and very interesting results that we got. But like, stay tuned for part 2, where we will connect this model to Telegram or Slack or whatever channel we're using in in the communication and sales, in order to fully automate this process.